Hey guys, it's Raleigh. Welcome to the channel. Last video we talked about CASTORA. I talked about my theories that I have about CASTORA, all that fun stuff, right? And I kind of talked about that puzzle pieces have been released for the location of CASTORA, okay? And the whole idea is that ArenaNet, they're kind of, you know, slowly revealing where the location of CASTORA is, right? So they put that out there and they're kind of like, ooh, here's some puzzle pieces, right? And they're like turned around and blah, 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 right? And so people have been trying to figure out where it is, right? So when the first puzzle piece came out, I put out my theory on where I think CASTORA would be located on the map. My theory at the time was that, and that was the day that I made the video, but I didn't want to talk about the location because I kind of wanted to wait until all the puzzle pieces are out. But we'll get to that in a second. So the original thought that I had was that CASTORA would be located somewhere between Cantha and that other continent to the west, okay? That unknown big continent that's to the west. Like somewhere in between that, in the unending ocean as an island somewhere that hasn't been revealed. Kind of like how, if you've never been to Dragonfall, all you see in the water where Dragonfall is the number 80 because it's a level 80 map. But then once you actually go there, it reveals the map to you because technically the map itself is a spoiler, right? So kind of in that same sense, I thought, okay. Again, we talked a little bit about the reason why no one knows where CASTORA is or why it's been thought to be non-existent or whatever, right? The idea was that my thought was that it's been cloaked or warded off like Maban did with Bava-Nissos. I talked about that in the last video, I'm pretty sure. And so the thing is that I thought that maybe, and I theorized this on like the Discord channel and stuff like that. Like we've theorized so much now that I'm like, I don't even know where I did it. But the theory was pretty much that I had was that CASTORA was warded off like Maban did with Bava-Nissos. But again, some people might say, well, Bava-Nissos is the island that Bava-Nissos was on was actually on the world map. Well, because Bava-Nissos was only warded off for 250 years, right? Because Maban warded it off after the Titans attacked. Now, my thought was that CASTORA had been warded off for much longer, right? Because we talked about the Seers, maybe it's the Seers' homeland, and maybe it's warded off because and maybe it's not on the world map because it's been warded off for 10,000 years, right? Way before modern maps were made. So no one knew that CASTORA was there. Maybe if we find an ancient map, we would find an island there. Anyways, so that was kind of my thought. Then someone put out something that actually supported my theory in a little bit, in a way. So someone talked about Rata Primus. One of the partners talked about Rata Primus, and they talked about how in their community, and they themselves had kind of talked about how when you go to Rata Primus, which is the largest Inquest installation in Ilona, and they talked about how when you go there, there's a communications relay that points right out into the ocean, into the unending ocean, right? And you'd only do that if you're trying to communicate with something out that way, right? Now, last night, I checked it, and I actually was like, okay, is that true? And so I went to Rata Primus, the Sandswept Isles, right? And I went there, and sure as heck, there is, on the western side, a communications relay that's pointed out to sea. And I looked exactly where that was pointing at. I kind of pointed my character, and I kind of looked at where the needle was pointed, and I looked at the map, and it was pointing exactly where I thought CASTORA was going to be. So I was like, wow, okay, that's kind of crazy. But the problem was that we had already, yesterday, they had revealed what looks to be the final piece of the puzzle for the map. And it's so weird. So they revealed the final piece of the map, and there's nothing new on it. It's kind of strange, because a lot of people were theorizing all these different places, right? So for those of you that don't know exactly all the details about Guild Wars and stuff like that, the world map, or what we know to be the world map, has been revealed for a long time to us through like in-game data and stuff. They did data mining and blah blah blah, and they found like a world map. And so far, all the expansions and all the expansions they have done to the world map, because I will tell you, originally the world map was much smaller, but as we got more maps and as we got more expansions and they, you know, went to different areas, they kind of expanded the world map further and further out, okay? And so as we're getting this expanded map, this world map looks to be on point with what, you know, what we think is the world, okay, of Tyria, the world of the planet of Tyria, right? And so a lot of people were theorizing that just out of the view of the world map to the west, that there is this area called Sunken Islands. And so people were theorizing that maybe that's where CASTORA is. That maybe the Sunken Islands are now called, that they actually have the name of CASTORA or whatever. And the reason they're called Sunken Islands is because people thought that they had disappeared at some point in time, right? They sunk to the bottom of the ocean. Right, and that's why they were called Sunken Islands. And maybe, you know, that's why CASTORA was thought to be non-existent, but it was on the world map because they were warded off, right? But they're still on the world map. Like, there's this whole thing that you can kind of weave around that. But the problem is that the 3 puzzle pieces that we got, which seemingly complete the puzzle, because it makes a perfect ranked rectangle that we have right now of the map, the 3rd piece, that there's nothing new on it, and it doesn't expand the world map. So, because people were thinking, well, maybe the 3rd piece is going to lead into, like, oh, they're actually expanding the world map, and they're actually going to show CASTORA and whatever, right? But they're not extending the world map, or from what it looks like. The map that they showed, the 3 pieces, don't extend the world map. So, but there's nothing new on it either. Now, the only thing that's new on it, I will tell you guys, is the actual tears of the map, where they tore the map apart to make this puzzle. And that's, like, I'm thinking maybe there's some kind of significance to that, because why have a puzzle piece, or why have a puzzle and telling us, okay, well, this, you know, seemingly from what was insinuated was that the puzzle pieces would reveal the location of CASTORA. That was my thought, right? That somehow, once you piece that all together, you're going to see CASTORA somewhere on the map. But it doesn't do that. So why have a puzzle that doesn't actually show anything new with saying, hey, where's CASTORA? Okay, that's kind of weird. So then people were theorizing as well. None of this came from me, because I'm kind of stumped, because I was like, well, it has to be. My thought was, and I put this out as well to the partners, my thought was, hey, you know, like, CASTORA has to be somewhere on our world map. Whether it's part of Tyria or not, it has to be on our world map. Like Nyos, right? Nyos is a different realm, but it's still located on our map because we have to teleport to it. So it actually has a spot on the world map, and you can actually see it on these puzzle pieces. You can actually see Nyos. Like, not the actual maps and the details of it, but it's the unexplored map of Tyria, and you can see Nyos on it. So it's like, okay, so that, like, clearly you have that there. Because, and the reason I say that is because people have been theorizing as well that maybe the reason why CASTORA is not on the map is because it is not part of Tyria, and it's actually a map in the mists, or it's a map that fades in and out of existence, so that's why people thought it was non-existent. Okay, so there's this whole idea between that, right? Like, where that would kind of make sense. That's why it's not on the world map, because it just fades in and out. And, you know, this, and like I said, this is all, like, coming from other people. But I'm just kind of pointing that out. I'm kind of bringing that to everyone's attention, because I'm still trying to figure out where CASTORA is, right? The idea isn't that I have a new theory. The idea is that I'm proposing this question to a larger audience, hopefully, right? Because I can't figure it out. Then the other theory that's been floating around is that the 3 puzzle pieces meet at a specific or not a specific location, but they meet at a point in the unending ocean. And a lot of people are like, well, maybe that's where CASTORA is. So, okay, that would kind of make sense. But again, why wouldn't they put that on the map? I don't know. It's just kind of weird, because again, so it's like, okay, maybe that's where all 3 of them meet, but like all 3 of the tears meet. But the weird part is, like, why why is that? It's so weird to me, because it's like, okay, well, that doesn't, looking at that, I couldn't tell that, right? Like, I wouldn't be able to tell that. I feel like a puzzle, once you have put all the pieces together, is supposed to give you the answer, but this doesn't seem to give us an answer. Then there's also the weird part about it, is that the terrorists themselves seem to actually, I don't know if there's actually any significance to specifically the tears themselves, because here's the thing: when you actually look at the tears, and I don't know if they did it for a specific reason, but if you follow those along, they don't actually go through any land masses. They only go through the ocean. And it's kind of strange, because when you look at the one that goes like east, that one goes along, like it goes in between Korna and Istan. Like, it goes along the Kornan coast and, you know, north of Istan, okay? All right, that's kind of interesting. And then the other one that goes south goes actually along the side of Xingye, but it goes in between Xingye and the island that's off to the, and for you guys it would be on this side, but I'm doing it, like, as I'm looking at the map, right? But it goes along the side of, like, the western little island that's off to the side of Xingye, and it goes along the side of Xingye Island in between those. So that makes me think of, and that was something that someone else kind of pointed out as well, because I pointed that out, and, you know, and then someone said, well, what if that is like tectonic plates, right? What if that is, you know, tectonic plate movement, and there's some significance to it, and we actually show that there's 3 tectonic plates that meet right there where the tears all meet together, right? And that's where maybe CASTORA is, right? So I don't know. I'm kind of just pointing out these things, these discussions, that, you know, that people have been having about it, because the idea still is that we don't know nothing about CASTORA. I talked about this in the last video, because it's so weird to me, because the thing is that we're so close, and someone actually talked about this as well, but there was so much more information about Janthia Wilds, about the Coden, about the Titans, about what's going on in the Janthia region, and Secrets of the Obscure, the same thing. Secrets of the Obscure, they dumped so much stuff early on. They had all these things that they told us about, right? They had all these blog posts about all these things in detail in certain areas as well. And so it's so strange that, you know, we're less than a month away. We're like, what, almost like a little over 2 weeks, 3 weeks or something away, like 3 weeks, right? Yeah, we're like less than 3 weeks away from the release of the expansion, and we know nothing about the location that we're going. We know nothing about the people that could live there. We know nothing about its history. We know nothing about its significance. We don't know why the commander is going there. We don't know where the story is going. We don't know why the Inquest is involved. We don't know why what the end game is here. We don't know who the bad guy is. Is it the Inquest? Is there something else larger going on? Is there a specific reason we're going to CASTORA? Does it lead into something different? Is there some larger plot going on? We don't know anything, and that's what's really strange to me. And I feel like that this might be a little bit of a negative point towards ArenaNet, because how are you going to get your community hyped if no one is going to get hyped if they don't know what's going on, right? For me, for myself personally, and I talked about this in the last video, is like, I'm trying to get really hyped, and I'm trying to do videos, and I'm trying to do theories, and I'm trying to come up with all these different things. But the problem is that there's no info out there to get us hyped about anything. Like, yes, we have elite specializations, and that's cool, and that's going to bring in a lot of people, but there's people like me that just love going into new maps, and I'd love to find out about the world, and I'd love to, like, explore the lore and the story and whatever, right? And a lot of people kind of play for the story. I know a lot of people that go into the game every 3 months to play the new release, just play the story of it, maybe do a couple of strikes, couple of raids, blah, 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 whatever, and then it subsides because they start playing another game, because all these games come out, and you don't have to constantly play Guild Wars 2. It's one of the things that makes Guild Wars so great, is that you can put it down for a whole year, and you can come back, and you're still, you know, you don't need to, there's no gear treadmill, like all these things. We've talked about that in the past, right? But none of those people, they're now worried about all these other games that are coming out, and now worried about all these other potentially, you know, expansions and you know, games that are coming out. Like there's other MMOs that are getting updates and whatever, right? And they're worried about them rather than Guild Wars, because for them there's no info on Guild Wars and they don't know what to get hyped for, right? They know there's an expansion coming out, but there's nothing there. And it also makes it seem like, obviously some people could be cynical enough to think that, oh, the reason they're not doing anything is because there's nothing to show, because the story is going to be really lame and there's nothing going on. Obviously, you can be like this pessimist thinking about that, which might not necessarily be wrong. The thing is, we don't have any evidence for either, right? We can't... Obviously, I think we know that there's going to be a story, and whether it's really good or not, usually the initial story to the mini expansion has been really good. But like I said before, I think the problem always is that the narrative kind of shifts, and that's... the story kind of falls apart because they shift the narrative so much, and they kind of halfway through the expansion start focusing on completely different things that had nothing to do with what the initial part was, and it just kind of falls apart. And that was kind of my whole thing. But the initial stories of Seekers of the Obscure and Gentile Wilds were great, so I'm hoping that we're gonna get a really good story early on in Visions of Eternity, right? But yeah, anyway, so that's kind of what I wanted to kind of give you guys an update, show you guys, because I'll put it on screen for you guys, the finished map that we have seen now with the puzzle pieces. I don't think there's going to be any additional pieces to the map, because it makes such a perfect rectangle that is the world map. So that's the thing, right? When you make a puzzle, you make it to the point where, you know, up until the final piece, up until you add that final piece into the puzzle, that it doesn't make a perfect rectangle. But right now, with the three pieces put together, it makes a perfect rectangle, and it shows the entire world map as we see it in game right now. So it's kind of strange to me. It's kind of weird. I don't know if they're expanding it. I don't know if there's going to be more puzzle pieces coming, and they're going to be like, haha, okay, well, we're actually extending it like further out, you know. I don't know. I just feel like that would be a weird cop-out. It's strange. So it's really weird because, you know, I don't know where to place my pin for CASTORA on the map. I really don't. And that, you know, it is what it is. Like, I just, at this point, and I put this out as well, was at this point, I just want to hear something. I don't care if I'm correct on, I've never really cared if I'm correct or not, right? I theorize because it's fun to me. And it's fun to me to then find out the answer and see where I went wrong or where I went right or whatever, right? Like, I just love the idea of theorizing about things. But the problem is that at this point, I've been starved for lore and for these types of these details that I feel like we should have already gotten by now. That I just want something, you know. I just don't even care at this point how, like, where the CASTORA is or whatever. I just want to get info, right? Because it's like, I know the expansion is coming, but I want to make more videos before the expansion comes out, and I want to talk, I want to get people hyped up, and I want to hype myself up. Right now, I don't really have the hype, because the elite specializations, yeah, they look fun and all or whatever, right? But I think within a month, I'll get used to the elite specializations, and they're not going to be that, I don't know, there's not going to be really that. To me, it's the new maps, it's the new story that gets me personally hyped, and that gets me going into like, ooh, what are the like, we don't know anything about the legendaries. They haven't been teased. We're getting 6 legendary items, and none of them have been teased, and we're less than 3 weeks away. So I really feel like my thought process is, and let's spin it in a positive way. All right, let's give it some silver lining here. Let's spin it in a positive way, and let's say, hey, you know what? The next 3 weeks, the stuff that's coming out next 3 weeks are gonna give us all these blog posts about the legendary items, the story, the location, the, you know, what's, you know, the bad guys, you know, talk about the inquest, talk about what else is possibly going on CASTORA, and that's what's going to be the next 3 weeks. So I'm hoping that I can herald this in, and that I'm correct on hoping that we're going to get a ton of information, because that's what I feel like is going to happen. I put this out on my own Discord server. I put out, you know, that I have a feeling that this whole puzzle piece situation is leading to them putting out a big blog post about CASTORA in this coming week, but they're trying to kind of hype it up. Kind of like how they did with the Elite specializations, right? With the Elite specializations, they put the little icons out and they were like, oh, whose icon is this? And blah, 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 right? And everyone theorized, and we had the whole, like, you know, people made all these big cards and, you know, putting all the things in. And I made videos on all of those, right? And stuff like that. And I'm hoping that this is the same idea. Right? Instead of talking about elite specializations and them giving us teasers for it, they're giving us teasers for CASTORA and, you know, where it's located, and then they're going to do a big blog post about where it is and what it is and what's going on with it and blah blah blah, all this stuff. So that's what I'm hoping. So what are your guys' thoughts on all of this? Where do you guys think it's located? I know there's a lot of thoughts on it. I've seen so many people speculate on all these different locations, which is really cool because, you know, obviously, until it's proven, none of us are wrong, right? But it's just fun to do that, right? To me, the part of theorizing is just like getting your brain working and putting all the pieces together and providing evidence for all these different things. And yeah, so what do you guys think? Thank you guys so much for watching. I will be covering Visions of Eternity. I will be going live. I will be doing all of that stuff, and I'm gonna see if there's some kind of possibility that I can do some giveaways when I do go live for Visions of Eternity, so to kind of make it more fun and engaging for people. So we'll see, but I'll put out the info for that probably on the YouTube channel. I'll probably make a post on there, and I'll most certainly put it out on a Discord server. I'll kind of announce I'm kind of thinking about it. What I'm doing exactly, right? So, but anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate you so much. If you are looking to support the channel in any shape or form, there's a bunch of links down below. You know, there is my partner links down below for the free-to-play. If you have never played Guild Wars 2 free-to-play, the free-to-play trial is huge. You can get to max level with it. There's a lot of stuff you can do, find out, see, and do, and it's great, right? I think it is. Then there's, if you're buying any of the expansions, my link is also down below. Just use that link. It'll bring you to the buy page and you can get any of them. And there is a merch store, and we have memberships available. If you guys want to become members on YouTube, that is available. And I'm trying to grow the memberships as well, because the more members we get, the more I can do for the memberships as well. I want to do, I want to get to the point at some, I want to get to a point where I can do member only content. And then that way there's more of a reason to actually become members and support that as well. So that type of stuff. Anyways, thank you guys so much. I appreciate it. If you guys haven't liked the video, I would appreciate that. Subscribe to the channel, all that fun stuff. I will see you guys probably in the next coming week. I'll be definitely on Monday I want to stream, and probably Tuesday, Wednesday. I don't know. We'll have to see. But I'm hoping Wednesday there's going to be blog posts. So if you guys aren't live stream watchers, there's probably going to be a video on Wednesday if they do a blog post. So kind of look out for that. And I'll see you guys then. All right. Bye, guys.